can and could. Okay, and we're gonna remember that modals of ability, there are three of them: can, able to, and could, but we are going to focus on can and able to. A quick lesson about modals. Modal rule number one: put the modal before the verb. So the original sentence, he speaks English. If I add a modal, he can speak English, the modal comes before the verb. Okay. Modal rule number two: change the verb into the base form. The original sentence, she has a car. This is called a third person singular. When we add a modal, such as can, the third person singular changes into the base form, have. So she can have a car. Um, if I'm talking about, so a quick lesson, we have don't do this. She could to drive. She's able to driving. It could drove. He can drives. Okay, and also don't make these mistakes with tense. He is driving. It could has driven. Instead, use he may be driving. It could have driven. Okay, so that's modal rule number three. Change the auxiliary into the base form. Okay, so instead of is, be; instead of has, have. Moving forward, the modal rule number four is to put not after the modal. So he cannot drive and she could not drive. Okay, so looking back at the modals of ability, there are three of them: can, able to, and could, and we're going to focus on can and could. Okay, let's look at the form for can and could. Okay, if we're looking at a statement, a positive statement, such as the dog could eat, okay, if I want to change that positive statement into a question, then I move could, the modal, before the noun. Could the dog eat? If I want to make a WH question, then I add a WH question word, such as what? What could the dog eat? Okay, some WH question words are who, what, where, when, why, and how. Okay, let's look at another example. He can speak Chinese. Okay, move can to the front of the sentence, the modal. Can he speak Chinese? If we want to make a WH question, add a WH question word. Why? Why can he speak Chinese? Okay, let's look at another example. They could drive to the store. Okay, moving the modal to the front. Could they drive to the store? That's a yes no question. A WH question word. Add WH question. A WH question. So we add a WH question word. When? When could they drive to the store? Okay. Let's look at positive and negative statements with can and could. Okay. If I have a positive statement, he could leave his room, and I want to negate it. Remember that the negation comes after the modal, so he could not leave his room. We learned this already. If I want to contract that negation, the contraction occurs between the modal and not, so he couldn't leave his room. Let's look at an example. They can speak in the library. Negation, add not. They cannot speak in the library. Not comes after the modal, can. If I want to contract the negation, okay, they can't speak in the library. The contraction occurs between the modal and not. Okay, let's look at uses. Okay, so if I want to talk about can, I can use can to talk about general ability. For example, third graders can solve division problems. Okay, it's a general ability. I can use can to talk about people's senses. What are people's senses? See, hear, feel, smell, taste, etc. What is etc.? Listen, okay, observe, okay. It's the same senses but with different words. For example, very young children can't see small details, okay. We can also use can to talk about mental abilities. What are some mental abilities? Well, what are mental abilities? A better question is, what are some verbs to describe that show mental abilities? Mental abilities, verbs with mental abilities: focus, understand, think, remember, memorize, notice. Those are verbs that describe mental abilities, that are used for mental abilities. So, an example: first graders cannot focus for more than 40 minutes. After 40 minutes, they stop losing focus. They don't focus anymore. Okay, so so just to review, we use can to talk about general ability, people's senses, and mental abilities. Moving forward, we can use could to talk about past abilities, or we use could to talk about past abilities. So, for example, in college, he could surf on a shortboard. All right. That concludes this presentation. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please have a wonderful day. Bye.